300 rands in cash in different denominations, 10 rands, 20 rands, 100 rands, 50 rands. And we said, okay mama, now you look at these features. Imagine it's a market. You have the money. Will you buy these features? How much money will you pay for each of those? It's up to you. You don't want to pay money, don't pay. You want to pay all the money for one feature, whatever, just do whatever you want. What happens then is, in the culture, there's so much negotiation that happens every day when she goes to the bazaar. That instinct kicks in immediately. And she takes the 300 rands and she looks at each paper and she says, this, no, 0 rands. This, no, 0 rands. This, 200 rands. The moment you see that, you have something to talk about. She doesn't even know why you're asking her, so she's not analyzing. Should she say that? Should she say that? She's doing what she would really do. But she's now providing you a clue that there's a problem. So you say, oh, after she's chosen everything, Mama, you said 200 out of 300 rands for this? This is for calling the community banker. Why, Mama? Why would you pay so much money? Because I want to call him when I'm getting robbed at the ATM. It happens every month I get robbed at the ATM. That's why I don't like the bank at all. I will pay 200 rands just to be able to call him and say, what should I do? But what about all the other features? I don't trust the mobile phone for that. You get this deep insight about a distrust of the phone. From there you go deeper and deeper. And then finally she says, how can a small phone like this do important things like transferring money from the account? That big bank branch does it. What, the small phone? Never. But the bank doesn't know that. They've like, okay, we've rolled out huge mobile banking everywhere. Nobody's using it because they don't trust that small little phone. So if you have the right technique, you get the right insight.
Training, I think.
Sorry?
Training.
Training?
Yes, she has to be trained on how to use it and
yeah, if you
see
know
the result.
If you know that she has a problem and what the problem is, then you can do something about it. If you don't know the problem, you're just sitting there wondering, why doesn't she use it? If she doesn't trust it, you've got to attack that problem and make her trust the phone, if that's her biggest challenge. So yeah, lots of methods. In Kenya, we wanted participants to compare different ways of transacting, whether it's the mobile phone, M-Pesa, Vodafone's M-Pesa, or ATM, or bank, or whatever, their informal group cash exchange mechanisms. We wanted them to compare and say which ones they like, which ones they don't. What we did is Kenya and animals, that's, it's so linked. So we put pictures of animals and then we told the participant that can you associate each of these instruments, financial mechanisms with an animal of your choice. Which one does an M-Pesa remind you of? Which animal? Now, you would see immediately they'll pick it up and put it against an animal. Now you have a clue and you ask them, why did you put the M-Pesa on the cheetah? Because the cheetah in Kenya has a negative connotation, whereas the M-Pesa is like a storm it has taken Kenya. If that is the case, if everybody is adopting M-Pesa, why is the participant putting it on an animal that is negative? Then they start telling you, oh, the cheetah, because the cheetah is very cunning, which is the negative connotation, and M-Pesa is cunning like that. M-Pesa, because they have agents everywhere around me, so they've made it very easy for me to take money out and spend it. So I go running and I take the money, I can't control myself. That's why M-Pesa is so bad, but it's very easy to do, so I keep using M-Pesa. But I really don't like M-Pesa. It's making me poorer, and I'm spending more money than I would have. You wouldn't have discovered this if you had just asked, which ones do you like. So a lot of methods we innovate upon. We were looking at washing machine ecosystem and coming up with new ideas, where we actually took a laundry bag full of dirty clothes to each house. Because what we wanted to know is, what makes an individual feel that a garment is clean? What is it? Is it smell? Is it touch? Is it sight? If you ask them, they cannot reconstruct what goes on in the brain. So we made them do it in front of us and say, okay, this bag is full of clothes, some are dirty, some are clean. Take each one out, sort them out in dirty versus clean. when they're doing that, you see what all they do. And in fact, in watching them, we learned some 17 different techniques of making out what is dirty and what is clean. We had no idea that these ways are used. So now we are, in our individual personal lives, we are very much more efficient in how we use this. So, there are lots of interesting things like that. Emotions, we've used emotion tickets based on an Indian performance theory, very old theory of emotions. We were studying ATM usage and we used this format. China, PayPal was coming into China. Before PayPal came into China, we were doing research in China for PayPal. And as we were sitting there and showing different features of PayPal to each participant, trying to understand, do they feel this is a service they use? They were finding it very difficult to complete any task using that prototype interface for PayPal. They just struggled. At the end of each task, though, they said, it's very good. Yes, I like it. But if you like it, you were struggling and so frustrated, you could not finish anything. How come you like something that you're struggling with so much? I mean, we didn't say this to them, this is what we're thinking. Then what we decided is, okay, forget asking them or observing what they're doing and then trying to see. Instead, we bought all these little dolls, which you get anywhere in mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, because they represent certain folk characters from folk tales, very popular across the Chinese population. And each of these characters have a certain attribute. So one of them is a lazy character, one of them is a villain, one of them is sly, trusted, one of them is generous. They all know this. So we bought these, put them on the table in front. Again, put the names of all the features they had used on PayPal on individual papers, put them on one side, dolls on one side, and said, okay, each feature, take it up, put it against a doll that you think connects best with that feature. The first things they would do is take all the features that they didn't like. This was a pattern. Immediately they would take a feature, put it against a negative character. And then again, you would ask them, why did you put that against a lazy character? Because, did you see, it made me fill in this form for transacting. Then when I went to it was a 3-page long form. When I went to the 3rd page, I made a mistake. I wanted to come back to the 1st page. It's cleared all the data. So now I have to start all over again. So that software is very lazy. It should have been doing the work and storing all my data. Why should it make me do all the work? This is an insight you wouldn't get otherwise. So anyway, there are a lot of methods. The main thing is, using these kinds of methods, you need to understand users in the ecosystem so that, as McKinsey continuously is saying nowadays, McKinsey, the global management consulting company, is your strategy for emerging markets local enough? Because they are so different. Don't make the mistake of using strategies that work elsewhere and blindly applying them. And that's how do you know whether to apply them or not, is all that I spoke about. We've often done research and at the end discovered a completely new segment that the client didn't even think of. Nor did we, but because of the research, because we went out to the field and deeply into the people, observed people, we came back and we could tell the client, you haven't even realized how big a market you have because of this segment that you thought doesn't exist. Or we've been able to advise a company against entering a market because they have no hope. So we advise a South African bank, don't go to Kenya. Don't, because you are too late. A local bank and M-Pesa have captured what you are trying to build now. Forget it. So research can, the research and ideation can tell you that. Or you can tell yourselves or a client that the strategy needs to be revised. It's not a complete loss situation, but you've got to revise it. So there are many types of things you get from an initial research. A very important cautionary tale is like Kellogg's, which maybe many of you know about Kellogg's when they entered India. Again, big research, big launch, because they felt that increasing numbers of urban Indian households, both husband and the wife are now working, so they don't want to cook their traditional Indian meals in the morning. They want to eat cereal, which is not an Indian sort of preferred meal, but people are now ready for it. So they launched, Kellogg's launched this. Big disaster. Nobody bought it. Any idea why? What happened? So, cereal, like Kellogg's or any cereal, is best eaten with cold milk. In India, we never drink anything with cold milk. Never. We boil our milk every time, even two drops in tea or coffee, we boil the milk again. It has to be hot, hot, hot. So what did people do in the first trial attempt when Kellogg's was launched? Everybody was curious, so they bought Kellogg's and they put boiling milk. And it became this horrible, soggy, lumpy thing that they never bought again. So Kellogg's did their market research and asked people, would you like to eat this? And they said, yes, of course. Because they all want to look like, yeah, what do you think? We want to eat cereal? Deep inside, they thought, I don't know, maybe we'll try it. When they tried it in the way that they normally drink milk, which Kellogg's forgot to observe. Because they never went inside any home. They just did some numbers and some nice pretty looking graphs. And the population looked good, big numbers, let's go ahead. So, as if that was not bad enough, then Kellogg's decided, okay, we've got to retrieve this situation. So they relaunched Kellogg's with mango flavor and said, this has got to be a hit. Even with hot milk, but mango flavor they'd go for. Mango is one fruit that no Indian would ever use as a flavor. You use the mango, a real mango, to eat. Anything that says mango flavor, you say it's stale, artificial. Mangoes can never have any flavor, artificially given. Big disaster. Today, Kellogg's is sitting very quietly in India, trying to see what they can do with that big factory they've made there. There are lots in the book, there are lots of case studies and interviews from across the world, of the emerging world, to tell you of successes within the emerging world of successful product design. Interviews with innovators and designers across the emerging countries.